I'm currently getting on a better sleep schedule. I recalled waking up around 7:30 in the morning. I spent my time at Dad's place, which lasted until about 3 in the afternoon, until Dad and I went out for some driving practice in a high school parking lot that incredibly had no cars besides us in it initially. Although there was a point in which someone parked their car into the lot. Here being where, say this is where we entered the parking lot, they parked their car about here in order to walk their dog. And during what was at the time snowy conditions, although it wasn't necessarily snowing at the time. It was just that there was snow on the ground. I mostly spent the time between getting up and the start of those driving lessons, and then a trip to Clutch, working on some custom props for Lunapic, for a new scene I decided to add to the 99th Dan Hammond episode. Excuse me. And besides that, I didn't really do too much. The driving lessons Dad and I worked on today at that parking lot primarily involved practice turning, and in regards to both handling of the steering wheel, which Dad told me I'm getting better at, along with footwork, which involves using your foot. In this case, it's the right foot that I use to apply typically what's supposed to be gentle pressure on the brake, just a little love tap as Dad describes it, in order to ease into a brake. And then a love tap to the gas pedal in order to either maintain your speed or to accelerate a bit in order to make turns better. generally when I'm being taught is to brake, ease brake, love tap the brake pedal right before a turn, and then love tap the gas pedal while you're turning so you can do the turn better. Dad seems to think I should practice turning the steering wheel with one hand. Generally, it's either this one or this one, depending on whether I'm going either clockwise or counterclockwise, not necessarily respectively. Though I kind of want to practice with two hands. And with just letting the wheel slide through one hand like this, as the other hand actually turns the wheel. Since when we actually get to the point of applying for getting the test for our driver's license, driving instructors will generally want you to have both hands on the wheel. At least, Dad, that's what Dad said. In between two sessions of both clockwise and counterclockwise laps around the parking lot, excuse me, we also did practice. We tried doing practice of something called a figure eight, which is essentially doing this. It's easy to say, but for now actually doing it, attempting that is something that just gets me confused. For the laps afterward, I think they were mostly counterclockwise. I felt a bit confused and at times wasn't entirely sure what I was doing, maybe getting into that flow state. As I think I would describe it for that particular session. I was a bit stressed out for much of it, but I still managed to perform pretty well. Not doing perfectly, but doing my best to always stay in control and to remember everything. And to stay in my lane. We practiced for over an hour. Dad said that he saw some improvement in my handling of the car. After our driving practice at the high school parking lot, Dad and I went out to eat. And we didn't go to Salvatore's like we often do, because today they had for their $10 daily special a boneless chicken special. And Dad doesn't really like boneless chicken, or at least their boneless chicken. So we instead went to Clutch. That's the place we settled on. Clutch wasn't the only candidate, but it's the one we settled on. Other candidates included the Retreat, and I briefly remembered Wimpy's before realizing as we passed by it that it had been replaced with Happy Days on the Go. At Clutch, I wasn't necessarily in the mood for a cocktail at the time. I was more in the mood for trying out a Roybach Scotch Ale beer, which came in one of those draft glasses. I'm pretty sure I already have this one. I'll have to end in the Silver League and get that next artifact from collecting Illuminati knowledge in order to get this evolvable building up to level 10. Gives me a lot of gold as it is, though. Could give me more, though. I recall early on today making some efforts to rearrange the campus university so I would ultimately be able to fit another of these necromancy facilities around the campus. But in order to do that, I think I'll need to get a city expansion for this new elixir manufacturer I put in not too long ago. I'm very close to completing all the task sets for this episodic event. I recall completing some of these side quests. At Clutch, I got the ROC burger, which is a burger that's essentially a garbage plate in burger form with a tater tot patty, which I think may be primarily what attracted me to it. Excuse me. And the burger came with plenty of hot and crispy fries. And by default, there was a sort of condiment topper section on the table that came with a bottle of Heinz ketchup, so you could dip the fries in ketchup, which I did some, but for the most part, I mostly ate the fries by themselves because they were pretty good. My Roybach Scotch Ale beer was somewhat bitter, but still pretty good. I enjoyed it, but I think that beer made me burp. Just like how these and kombucha can also make me burp. I believe Dad got a different burger. I think he got I think it was called the Triple B for $16. My burger was $15. And before we even ordered even our drink, we got a complimentary glass of water, which is generally what every place does. And at one point, while making conversation with my dad, while we were at Clutch, he mentioned how the place seemed to have changed considerably since how it initially was. It's a sports bar today, but apparently it was initially meant to be either a fine dining sort of place or Maybe also a pub of some sorts. I recall being taken to Clutch as early back as 2013, and I don't recall it changing much since those days. But it seems Dad's been going there for much longer, so I'll go with what he said for now. All in all, it was a pretty good meal. When we arrived at Mom's place around 6 p.m., she wasn't home. And we could tell because her car wasn't in the garage. I assumed she had gone off to do something before a planned shopping trip at Wegmans. I felt tired after the hour of driving practice and then eating a somewhat large meal at Clutch. So I was grateful for the at least few minutes of rest by lying on my stomach on my bedroom bed before presumably Mom and I would go to Wegmans for some grocery shopping. But as it turned out, she went ahead and did grocery shopping at Wegmans without me. After a few minutes, I thought of that possibility and called her, and when she answered, she confirmed that to me. By the time I called her, it had been some minutes since I got at her place, as she was pulling up into the garage. So I helped her both bring the groceries in and put each item individually into either the refrigerator if they needed to be refrigerated, or the freezer if they needed to be frozen, and if neither of those applied, I put them in, I want to say the cupboards, but it looks closer to some kind of food closet than a bunch of cupboards. Generally, it's not the best idea to get groceries when you already have leftovers. Not only does that increase the chance of you wasting food, but in my case, I struggled to fit everything, all of our groceries, into our fridge while keeping them stacked in such a way that nothing would spill over. A minor spillover did occur. A handful of items tumbled down when I heard a sound come from the fridge. I opened the fridge door. It's the one on the right side of the fridge. The left side is the freezer part. And some items tumbled out. Luckily, there was none of the items were ruined. I just put those items back in the fridge using more care and a different arrangement. And ultimately, I managed to fit all of our groceries into the fridge, though it was a bit nerve-wracking, to say the least. Oh yeah, that's the part of my city that produces some relics for me.